Imagine a government faced with a terrifying armed insurgency making a drastic choice, a handshake with the very people terrorizing its citizens.
Governor Diko Rada of Katsina State has been explaining the exact nature of the recent peace talks with some bandit leaders in the state. The governor explained that the bandit leaders initiated the peace moves with the state government and he is making efforts to ensure that it works.
In Nigeria's northwest, this is a hypothetical. It's a collapsing reality. For nearly a decade, state governors have tried to buy peace from heavily armed bandits, or terrorists as some people like to call them, with controversial peace deals, amnesties, and even cows for AK-47s. So starting from Zamfara in 2016 to Katsina and Sokoto in 2025, these agreements, which are often lauded as breakthroughs, have repeatedly dissolved into renewed carnage. So the question then becomes, why does Nigeria keep making peace deals that it knows will fail? Why does the state constantly choose short-term relief over long-term structural solutions? The answer lies in a national habit of political expediency, a lack of institutional trust, and a chilling historical precedent that traces back to the very brink of the Nigerian Civil War. So today, we are dissecting the anatomy of Nigeria's failed peace deals. We'll trace timelines, expose the critically important details that are consistently overlooked, and reveal the dangerous consequences of a state that refuses to respect the sanctity of a contract. This is not just about bandits, it's about a foundational flaw in the Nigerian state. Stay with me. The genesis of the crisis started in Zamfara with the 2016 Accord. The wave of attacks by heavily armed, organized, non-state actors which the federal government labels as bandits had turned large areas of the northwest Nigeria into active conflict zone states. So states like Zamfara, Katsina, Kaduna, Sokoto are under constant siege.
Thousands of people have been forced from their homes in northern Nigeria, fleeing an upsurge in violence by armed groups Boko Haram and ISIL.
In July 2009, Boko Haram staged a failed uprising against the Nigerian government. 800 people were killed.
The Nigerian city of Jos has been rocked by 2 bomb blasts, killing at least 118 people and injuring many more.
The practice of negotiating with these terrorists began as early as in 2016, when then Governor of Zamfara State, Abdulaziz Yari, initiated a peace deal with armed bandit groups operating in communities like Birni-Magaji, Bongudu, Shinkafi, Safi, and Zurmi. This initial effort signaled a government willingness to prioritize dialogue over overwhelming force. Now, this early engagement did yield some tangible results because in March 2017, in areas like Rowantofa, Yagaradima, and Babandoka in Mari local government area, repentant bandits and local vigilante groups, which is known as Yansakai, surrendered a significant quantity of arms to the 23 Battalion of the 1st Brigade of the Nigerian Army. They had inventory that had 3 AK-47 rifles, 1 foreign-made pistols, 1,169 din guns, 323 locally made pistols, 54 locally made revolvers, 102 locally made multi-barrel pistols, 22 locally made double-barrel rifles. These are the kind of weapons they surrendered to the Nigerian Army. And between 2016 and 2017, over 1,000 assorted weapons were surrendered across the region, momentarily suggesting that the peace deal and the initiative at large could succeed. Now, it is very important to note that this round of accords, particularly in 2025, lacks the clarity on disarmament and monetary mechanisms or penalty structures for violations that the one in 2016 and 2017 had. The current iteration leans heavily on trust and mutual restraint rather than enforceable guarantees. They speak of ceasefire and coexistence but do not explicitly require bandits to surrender weapons or face legal consequences for past crimes. Some other people are worried that without this kind of accountability, this ceasefire is just a calm before the storm. Now, the roots of this problem can be traced. So the problem of a state that does not respect the sanctity of contracts. This continuous failure of peace deals in the northwest is a symptom of a deeper systemic problem. That's the Nigerian state's lack of political will to address underlying causes and conflicts and its fundamental disrespect for the sanctity of contracts. There is a historical precedent for this. Nigeria has a penchant for resorting to peace deals when faced with an existential security threat, only to see them fail at implementation stage. Back then, I talked about the Nigerian Civil War. In 1967, there was a pivotal agreement, the Aburi Accord, to resolve political tensions within the regions that ultimately fell flat at implementation. The failure to respect that accord led directly to the secession of the eastern region and then the Nigerian Civil War, which claimed at least 3 million lives. Fast forward to 2007-2010, the Yar'Adua government exchanged money and economic development promises for militants' guns. More than a decade later, the core problems, which are oil spills, environmental degradation, poverty, unemployment, have hardly changed. The region remains volatile, proving that throwing money at a problem without structural commitment is a failed solution. Secondly, there is the problem of lack of political will, because the recurrent communal clashes, conflicts, clashes, farmers' clashes across communities in Ebonyi and Cross River, as well as Taraba and Benue, further buttresses the point that Nigerian states use peace agreements to kick the can down the road, buy more time, rather than resolve these disputes. So issues that could be resolved by institutions such as the National Boundary Commission are left to fester, leading to periodic loss of life. Successive presidents have told the military to flush out terror elements.
I have come with my men to occupy this forward operating base.
Such kind of things, such kind of approach requires the kind of firepower that the political class is no longer willing to do. Third, and very importantly, there's economic consequences of disrespecting contracts. Now, the failure to respect agreements is not limited to internal security only. It has had costly international economic consequences. For example, the PNID case. So in 2017, a London tribunal found Nigeria liable for $6.6 billion in damages to process and industrial development, aka PNID, for failure to deliver on the 2010 gas facility contract. By 2020, with an accrued interest, the bill rose to about $9.6 billion. This habitual disregard for sanctity for the sanctity of contracts led former UK Secretary of State for International Development, Priti Patel, to publicly call on international investors to avoid investing in Nigeria due to then President Muhammadu Buhari's disrespect for international law and convention and court decisions, quote unquote. The Nigerian penchant for pouring money into problems and or doubling down into unworkable and failed solutions is epitomized by then Zamfara state government's offer. And so in 2020, we should cast your mind back. Then Governor, who is now the Minister of State for Defense, offered another round of amnesty, this time promising 2 cows for every AK-47 that was surrendered by the bandits. Now, beyond these missteps by the bandits, as well as the community leaders, some of these agreements have construed the tacit support of Nigerian security forces. You may have seen videos where you had bandit leaders meeting with community people as well as soldiers present to observe the processes.
Wace matsala ta tara mu? Matsalar kashe-kashe, ɗaukar dukiya, ga yanan dai ba sai an ce wani abu, kowa dai ya san abin da ke. To sannan ni tambaya ta anan, din Najeriya, duk inda ake magana ana magana bahilla ce dan ta'adda ne barawo. Ai akan magana dai ake kenan.
Why is this so? It's simple. Because the military cannot keep Nigeria safe anymore. The military we are talking about is currently stretched too thin as it is bogged down in an ongoing war with Boko Haram in the northeast and then bandits in the northwest and the north central, kidnappers across the north and across the south, to engage too much in security operations across the country. So this reality forces an uncomfortable compromise, as evidenced by heavily military casualties, such as the 2020 July incident in Jibia, Katsina, where at least 19 soldiers were killed in an explosion in July.
At least 23 soldiers have been killed in an ambush in northwestern Nigeria. Armed militants opened fire on the soldiers as they walked through a forested part of the Jibia district in Katsina state, security sources said on Sunday.
Now, since July 2020 and November 2025, hundreds more other soldiers have been killed across the north. And since then, most notably, but the one that happened as recently as a week ago, where Brigadier General Musa Uba of the 25th Task Force Brigade in Damboa, Borno, was killed by the Islamic State West Africa province. Now, there is an urgent need for the Nigerian government to realize that peace deals are not the end to the problem, but the beginning of an even greater one. If the terms of such agreements are not implemented and the underlying causes are not addressed. The Niger Delta crisis shows that throwing money at the problem is insufficient. The peace deals in the Northwest has also shown the same thing. And even more so, it's even more dangerous because the Lekurawa guys, they who now troubled Nigeria's northwestern communities, were a stopgap measure by community leaders who went to Mali in 2017 at the height of the banditry crisis in northern Sokoto to bring relief to their communities by getting into an agreement with Sahelian militias to help them safeguard their communities. If we fast forward out to 2023, 2024, those same people who they got to help them with the banditry problems, not only help them with the banditry problems, but also turn the gun on themselves by trying to form a caliphate in Sokoto, which has now stretched into Kebbi. A commitment to tackling the root causes with circumspection and a structural resolve is the only way to avoid repeated embarrassment and prevent conflicts from exploding. This current situation where community leaders are going into peace deals with bandits is a testament to the fact that the Nigerian state has failed. It can no longer adjudicate disputes peacefully, and very importantly, it has failed in its second most important duty, which is security of lives and properties of people under its domain. The evidence is overwhelming. Nigeria's peace deal strategy is a failed short-term measure rooted in institutional weakness, and until the state decides to honor contracts, address systemic poverty, and deploy the requisite political will and military force to sustain its monopoly on violence, the cycle of negotiation, now led by community leaders, betrayal and bloodshed will continue to devastate the Northwest and even the entire country in the long term. Thank you.